I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We are joined by Bonnicula. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. So happy to be here.
I am very happy that you are here. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello. I'm Bonnicula. You're free to call me Bonnie. Most people do. My pronouns are she and her. I am a vampire VTuber that specializes in Unity special effects, the Vignon streaming software, and creating sort of interactive game experiences live on stream for folks.
So tell me about that. What is that software all about you just mentioned?
The Vignon, I'm an official Vignon ambassador, Vignon ambassador, I think we're calling
cool.
the position.
Yeah.
It's so for 3D VTubers, you use a specific software to sort of render your model and do the face tracking on all that kind of stuff. And they usually have some automation and integration with hotkey special effects and that kind of stuff. And I like to build things in Unity that then Vignon can sort of activate as chat uses commands or channel point redeems on stream to kind of create an immersive, interactive experience.
And when they activate it, you interact with it, or are they interacting with each other with it?
Oh, both. Yes, it's kind of. I run my streams sort of like Carrot Top, where I like to have a huge chest of goofy props available to me at any time. I have about 32 silly hats I can put on, for instance, at any given moment. But then chat can also, using either word commands or the channel point system on Twitch, they can activate various special effects.
I've done 500 and almost 50 of these interviews. You're the first person who mentioned Carrot Top.
I will probably subtly reveal my significant age relative to the rest of the VTubing community regularly.
Well, you're on top. You lead in that category. Most mentions of Carrot Top.
Yay!
You are definitely a trailblazer in more ways than one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The recognition is everything, you know.
So when did you get started with the VTubing thing in general?
So yeah, VTubing I wasn't even aware of at all before about a little more than 3 years. I guess we're pushing 4 years now. And I had the very vaguest of notions of what a VTuber was. I knew there were some Japanese performers who did live anime girl stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was where my knowledge began and ended. Was it's some streaming thing. But I had never really watched a live streamer of any kind. So people in my chat will be like, "Oh, I grew up watching Toby Pie," and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. You know, when they talk about the big streamers that they grew up watching, I'm like, I don't have a clue who any of these people are. But one of my roommates was like, "Oh, did you know that Nyanners is a VTuber now?" And I'm like, I don't. Wait, that YouTuber from back in the day that made like a funny song is a what now? Is a VTuber? And I've just kind of moved on from it. And then later that day, I was like, she sent me a video. I was like, oh, okay, so you can just become cat girls now, I guess, is a thing that people are doing.
Yeah.
And I started kind of poking around in it, and I was like, oh, I found a few people in the indie VTubing scene who were doing really interesting stuff with 3D models and face tracking and hand tracking.
Yeah.
And that was the light bulb moment for me of like, whoa, you're puppeteering right there. You're doing really interesting, like live motion capture. And I like poked one millimeter further into like, well, how are you doing that? How much does it cost you to do that? Like, do you have like a motion capture suit or what? And the person like revealed that it was like an iPhone and a little, Leap Motion device, this little hand tracker that looks like a USB stick, And I was like, so you can do what I thought would take thousands of dollars of studio equipment to accomplish with a couple $100. And by the end of the day, I was in a program trying to make a 3D model, and I
Just
had fallen down the rabbit hole.
yeah, you're just being pulled just a little bit further, and then finally the
Hmm.
box fell on you.
Oh yeah, and and there was no turning back after that point. And I started, looking into other mostly indie VTubers who were doing really interesting stuff with the tech.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was entranced by the creativity on display and how much more it was than what I initially thought.
It really is amazing, isn't it? I mean, and I think that I'm not taking away anything from the folks who are doing the big corporation thing, but um, I think it's the independent VTubers that are coming up with the innovations and the different ways to do things because they don't have a management to try and run things by.
Hmm.
They can just say, "Well,
Oh yeah, no.
does this work? I'm throwing it up there, and if it works, then good. If it doesn't, well, then we'll just not put up the VOD."
I've always had that sort of like, well, my first thought is not, can I go and purchase something? It's always going to be, how do I do that myself?
Yeah.
Which probably comes from some ultra self-reliant trauma response that we probably shouldn't go into, but like uh that's always my first thought is like, okay, I see somebody do something cool. I want to know how they do it, and I want to learn how to do it,
Mm,
and that the indie VTuber space, just because nobody has any money,
mm.
often you find people who are like, well, all right, well, I'm going to find the free software and I'm going to pour endless hours and endless amounts of sweat and blood and tears into learning to do it myself.
Oh yeah, I call that MacGyvering, where you can just
Hmm.
you just take whatever's there and then you create a mountain out of a molehill, basically,
Yeah. A
and
sometimes barely functional duct taped together
yes.
product, like most of my streams, is just like 8 different softwares running, some of them refusing to talk to each other, so I have to use a third one that will pass a webhook between the two.
The,
It's
you're using
nightmarish
United
sometimes.
Nations software.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I just come up if I ever had a software company that had those things, I would call it United Nations software. That would actually be
Hmm.
perfect
Hmm.
for that sort of thing. But what you're describing to me sounds like just plain curiosity.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's good for those folks who are looking to be innovative and looking for. I don't know if I could get by a day without being curious about something. I
Oh,
wouldn't
for
be
sure.
interviewing people if I wasn't. Um, in my job, I have to be curious, otherwise I can't get it done, frankly. But
That's
the
true.
it's really this 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 really opens itself up to those who are curious and willing to pursue and put a little work into it. You get surprised by what the technology can do.
And what you can do.
Mm.
That's huge, because I have definitely spent a lot of time kind of bouncing between projects over the years, trying to like, I've made prototype video games and like embarked on, trying to learn Blender and things like that. And often I will bounce off a project if if it doesn't click for me.
Yeah.
And that's pretty frustrating when you're like, I really want this to work, but I don't have the chops yet to do it.
Mm.
Um, but I was very glad to find one, good resources and a good community of people who are willing to share knowledge, in VTubing specifically,
Yeah.
around how to get these things done. And I had never really touched Unity before. I started doing this stuff, and once I found some resources, that were like, well, this is how you get a model made. This is how you move it into Unity. This is how you give the face all these, expressive blend shapes,
Right.
so it
Right.
can track your face and give you, you can wink and do a sly grin or what have you,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I was like, I get Unity now. Okay.
Mm.
And like 3 years later, I'm like, I still don't actually know how to. I still don't actually know how to use Unity. I just know how to use Unity hard. And I believe that I can set my mind to accomplishing something that is close to my vision.
It sounds really cliche, and maybe it is, but not knowing going in what it can do, you don't have any limits,
Mm, mm-hmm.
and you might be able to find something that the original people didn't even really want it to do, but then you
That's
find,
my favorite thing in the world.
oh yeah, and then it's that's just it's not supposed to do that, but now that it
Yeah.
does,
Oh, that's my specialty.
mm,
Is the software was not designed to do that. Why are you making it do that? I built a fighting game in OBS, and a it is definitely not the platform for building fighting games. I will tell you that much.
I'm going to give you a kitchen knife, a small piece of wire,
Hmm.
and and a loaf of bread. Build a bomb.
All right, I'm gonna need. Okay, how do we ferment the bread? I'm gonna need to get that.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that because you just might build a bomb.
Right. Yeah.
It really sounds like. Have you always been a curious type?
I certainly always wanted to be more of an artist than maybe I could accomplish. I failed out of vampire art school
Mm,
back in vampire college.
yeah.
Um, I was a little ahead of my time, Eric. You understand?
Well, of course.
Um,
Those
my
those
genius will not be appreciated in
it's,
my own time,
those of us
unfortunately.
misunderstood people are always at least 50 to 100 years ahead of our time.
It's bare minimum,
Mm,
and I ran into that wall very hard
mm,
in vampire art school,
mm,
where I liked the idea of being creative more than maybe I liked the hard work. And also, in my defense, I lacked a lot of resources
mm.
to really like I kind of went to art school very financially unprepared for the costs of art school. So I
Yeah.
was trying to MacGyver my way with a loaf of bread and a kitchen knife and a piece of wire into a sculpture by the end of like the portfolio review. And there were other folks there who like they had, I guess, more formal training in some kind of like advanced prep art school,
Yeah.
high school kind of situation or something. And they came and they understood like, oh, I actually need to like have money and invest in the materials to make this art. And I
Yeah. That's that,
I did not do that.
well,
But I always liked creating.
yeah. It seems like to me, and I talk to a lot of people who are artists, that art classes and art schools can be a total mixed bag where you can come in and learn basics and it can help you, or you can come in and they try to squash you into the cookie cutter and you
Hmm.
don't enjoy it and you don't really learn anything, and they try to take the individuality out of you.
Yeah.
Was that the latter what happened?
I am sad to say that I honestly think that nobody should ever go to art school.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the creative impulse to create art, that can't be given or taken away by art school, really. It can be kind of like squashed down for a little bit as you're if you have a bad professor, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but honestly, with internet resources as we have them, every skill that some art school teacher is going to try to drill into you, you can learn better and at your own pace in your own time. Yeah, the only benefit at all is somebody telling you, no, you actually do have to draw 300, cardboard boxes so you can learn what shapes and light do, and you have to do it or you
Yeah.
will fail.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, well, so do you need somebody with a gun against your head to learn art, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Or do you want to learn, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, truthfully, there are some of us, and I'm raising my hand, that that if I entered an art school, it would immediately close, like Pepe Le Pew going into a into a locker room. I mean, I'm really just horrific at art, and I am envious of those who can. But I learned very early that, and unfortunately, I had a very bad teacher in grade school
Mm,
who wasn't helpful at all. I actually got an F for turning in a project.
that is brutal.
I mean,
It does criticism. Everyone's a critic, Eric.
a fourth grader getting an F
A
on
fourth
on a
grader.
project. I'm like,
If a fourth grader turns in anything, you should
yeah,
give them a cute little ribbon that says you did your best, you know?
especially when you take it and you're an instructor, and instead of evaluating what they've done, you grade them as if you're going to sell the art or you're going to buy
Right.
the art. I mean, that's not you're not going to buy. This is a this is, for crying out loud. It's a clay cup.
Hmm.
You're not going to do anything with it. The parents are going to throw it out once I take it home. they're not, they're going to
I
keep it.
like my ashtray.
Yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, but but it sounds like you've coupled that with a want to continue to learn more. Once you get a hold of a subject, like you said, it's like a rabbit hole, keeps dragging you further and further. Like that old Family Guy thing. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
Oh, the piece of candy, yes.
So is that you in a nutshell? I mean, are you one who keeps following the trail?
I keep following the trail for sure, yes. I take a fairly expansive view of the word art.
Mm.
And like I've worked on projects that I sometimes feel like I have to defend as having been art, you know.
Uh-huh.
And certainly streaming to some, if you're trying to explain what you do to somebody who has never watched a live stream or doesn't know what a VTuber is, you do kind of feel like maybe you have to use other words. Like I do digital and live digital animation. I do, virtual puppeteering, so they have some concept of what the heck you're talking about. But I really
I
do
don't have
feel,
my
I feel like there was,
I don't have my wading boots on. Please don't use that language.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I feel like in a lot of ways, I do feel like it's part of it is just finding a medium that finally really fits and like scratches all the itches, pushes all the buttons
Right.
that I feel like I've been looking for and was waiting for to arrive, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Um,
it's right. Yeah, I think it's
I
perfect.
feel like back in 1999, I
Mm.
was teaching myself Vermal, probably 98 or 99. I had this big book of Vermal, virtual reality modeling language,
Yeah,
which is what we were envisioning the new after GeoCities. What will the web be?
right, right.
Ah, it will be these virtual spaces that we hang out in as virtual avatars,
Yeah,
and we will be able to interact with other people, and and it
yes,
took a while
yeah,
for the tech to catch up to our vision. And in the meantime, we got Web 2.0 that was a glorified Apple store
right,
um,
exactly.
instead,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But finally, decades later, I was like, wait, this is the technology that I wanted to exist back then.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're telling me I can do it on a shoestring budget and have infinitely more, graphical fidelity than the lawnmower man ass graphics I was envisioning back then.
Yeah, I mean, I am much older than you. Okay, so let's just. I mean, I'm going to be 60 this year, so I'm way up there.
You got a couple winters on me.
Yeah, I got a few, and few a few decades probably. The so the first thing I started working on was in high school. We got Apple IIs, which at the time pretty good. I mean, heck, 1982, you have an Apple II. I think you're pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
Um,
they're ahead of the curve.
yeah, and then I when I got a job in college, I got myself a Commodore 64, which was really ahead of the curve at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily, they programmed the same language, both of them being Apple machines. So I was able to program like really, really basic stuff. But they were also an inch long if you printed them out on dot matrix printers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an inch thick by the time it was done. I really do wish, in retrospect, another one of the things I do is that I would have kept up with computer programming during that time. Um, but it started to hurt my head.
Yeah. Yeah, it does hurt the head very badly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
and I was,
Yeah, I feel you on that. It
yeah,
was remarkable to me that I had retained any of that Vermal. I
yeah.
have some Vermal up on my NeoCities page if
Ooh,
anyone wants to go check out. There's GeoCities isn't dead. It's just
yeah.
it's still out there.
It's
Now it's NeoCities.
yeah,
And I actually got Vermal to work on a modern web page. I was like, wait, I remember. It's still
whoa,
in there, back in
whoa.
my deep grooves of my brain.
Yeah, it's like when a calculus problem shows up somewhere, and the calculus class I took in high school suddenly rears itself up. Solve f of
Yeah.
x, and my ear starts bleeding. And I'm like, no, stop.
Some neuron that hasn't been tickled in decades dusts itself off and is like, all right, I got this.
No, stay hidden, stay hidden. I'll never need you again. Well, it does sound like this reel's really the VTubing is right in your wheelhouse. I mean, really, it's something that not only can you continue to grow and learn at, but you're enjoying doing it too, right?
Very much so. And
Yeah.
I try, my goal is to add something new to my stream every week. I don't
Mm.
always, yeah, it doesn't always come together on that time frame. And I'm not too, I try not to be too harsh a taskmaster about it.
Yeah.
But I try to like learn, okay, so I've never used a spring joint in Unity. Let me try to get a door working so I can walk through the doors and, greet my audience by swinging open the castle doors or something. I still haven't gotten that one working for
Wow.
some reason.
You have
I
a
can explode the doors off the hinges, but I can't open them. But
have a,
there's always something new to
a
learn,
big
and if I get bored with one of them, there's about 800 other things I can
oh
work on. And that's very good for somebody with my kind of ADHD,
yeah.
where like I can focus like a laser
Mm,
for 18 hours and forget to eat or sleep as long as something has my attention.
yeah.
But if I get a little bit bored or frustrated with it, there goes the brain,
Yeah.
you know?
It's sounds like that you've been with ADHD. You've kind of managed to work with it. Am I reading that right, or is it something that took a
You
little
kind of
while?
have to, yeah, you have to work with it and work around it
Yeah.
and understand, like, okay, today's not a brain day where I'm going to be able to work on this thing. And you have to trust your own brain will eventually, whatever neurochemical you have depleted or what have you, will come back,
Yeah.
which is difficult sometimes because when you just cannot focus and your executive functioning is out the window, it feels like it's never going to come back.
Yeah.
And you have moments of doubt of like, I don't have it. I don't have the juice anymore, Eric. I've lost the spark. And it's not true. You
Yeah.
just have off days and you got to be patient with yourself and come back to it,
Yeah.
Go work on something else. It's fine. Or
Yeah.
just take a day off. It's okay.
I
I'm
mean,
very bad at taking days off
yeah.
though.
Well, you
Um,
could just be tired. It's
right.
it's it happens when you get up to this age. You're tired a lot. You
hmm
actually that's one
Yeah,
of the things
yeah.
you
Remember when I said I sometimes forget to eat and sleep? That
yes.
might be a component of why I can't focus on
Yes.
this thing anymore.
Now I never forget to eat. Sleep, maybe, but not eat. That's one of my problems too. um.
I see. I don't even know I'm hungry until I get dizzy. That's my
Oh.
body's signal. Is
Um.
like, oh, my blood sugar is so low.
Yeah.
I can't. My knees are wobbling when I stand up.
Yeah.
That means I'm hungry.
Oh well, I get a situation where I'm not a small person, but I don't have high blood pressure. I have occasionally low blood pressure, which freaks out the doctors.
I
Like, how are you doing? I don't know. It's how I'm built.
don't know.
But every once in a while, I'll get to the point where I have absolutely no energy to do anything, and that's because my heart beats once a minute, and, I mean, I just get so calm that I just can't do anything. I have to eat something to go the other way rather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
come down.
Go get some stimulating food in you. You're dangerously zen right now.
I had a doctor one time said you should eat more salt.
Yeah,
I
no, for some
I
folks,
said,
I
you
think
know what?
salt really is the thing, right?
That makes me the luckiest man in the world. French fries. But so for you, a lot of it was the technology that brought you in. You think?
A lot of it was the tech, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I've always liked performing. I had a radio show in Vampire College, and
Mm,
that then became a podcast when podcasts were invented.
yeah,
Um, and I've done a lot of public speaking and a lot of public performing,
yeah.
stand up and things like that. I've had lots of performance aspect.
Oh,
But I never really felt fully satisfied podcasting alone.
mm.
If that makes sense. I
Oh, it
wanted
does.
another element of it.
It does. It does. It's if I were to do this by myself, it would last about 20 seconds, and I get tired of me.
Oh yeah. Oh God, Eric, I tried to do a solo podcast and it lasted about 20 seconds
Yeah, yeah,
before I was like, oh, I can't. I'm not funny enough
yeah,
without somebody to bounce
yeah. Well,
anything off of. I need the rubber ducky at least
yeah. I mean,
to
well,
talk to.
when you were doing the radio stuff, what type of show were you doing?
It without I do want to keep it fully segregated
Hmm.
from my current project because I definitely it was a long project. We did a 15-year podcast
Whoa,
actually. Um
dang.
just yeah, it went for quite a while. And it was part of that arc was doing a podcast for a publishing company.
Mm.
So it featured a lot of counterculture and comics artists and things like that. Kind of talking about their weird ideas.
Oh, that's
And it
wonderful.
was very cool.
Yeah,
Very, very cool.
that sounds like a lot of fun, actually. But
I
it.
was very much not into the tech side of it, though. I still struggle with my audio on streams.
Oh, yeah. Well,
That's my Achilles heel.
there's always something slippery about it. It's really
Hmm.
tough to deal with. But really, when you have a focus and a guest that is really into what they're doing, it makes so much of a difference, not just for the listener or viewer, but for the host as well. Because
Hmm. Oh, 100%.
and you've already demonstrated you're a curious person, um, so that automatically makes you somebody who asks questions, I imagine.
I would say yes. I would say that the old it was Dale Carnegie's
Yeah.
advice is probably the best advice I can give anybody, whether you're interviewing people or running a Twitch stream
Hmm.
and wondering how to get your chat talking
Hmm.
and how to keep people engaged. That old chestnut of you must develop a genuine interest in other people
Mm.
is huge advice
Yes.
that I think is really it's very basic, it's very simple, but that is one of the best ways to gain friends and influence people
Oh.
is develop an actual and genuine interest in other people.
Oh,
And that
absolutely.
one doesn't occur naturally to folks is that that tells you a lot, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But it's probably the best advice I think any creative can have.
Oh, I think so. I think that's absolutely brilliant, actually, and with if you can combine that with a natural curiosity and the ability to be deft enough to bounce off the other person, it really makes for a much easier time all the way around for everybody involved. Especially, it breaks down a lot of barriers between yourself and whoever you're talking to. Um, if like I've talked to some folks, that were on big stages and that type of stuff over the years,
Mm-hmm.
especially sports guys and book out that type of thing. And immediately, if you start up and the first thing you say is, "Oh, I really loved when you did this play," now you're a fanboy.
You see the light go out of their eyes
Yeah, absolutely. And then they
and they fall into a script.
absolutely, and then that's the
Mm-hmm.
least thing that I want. I've never written a question down in my life, and I'm not going to start now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I and it's but when you talk to them like human beings and showing general interest in what they're doing, even if you don't know what's going on with them or you don't know them from Adam, it makes a huge difference.
It
Um,
does. It
it,
does.
it does, but getting people to have enough natural empathy or sympathy to do that is not very easy these days.
True, true. But just understanding that people really like to talk about themselves.
Mm,
And if you just ask them something about themselves, ideally something that isn't just like one of the responses that they have or one of the questions that they have a canned response for that they give at every panel or
yeah,
what have you. But like ask a genuine question about them. People actually really like to talk about themselves.
yeah, yeah,
That's, the simple joy of interviewing.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And getting to know the other and getting to know their personalities and what they're really interested in and their talents is what drives me with this show. I enjoy it way too much to even think about not doing it at any point in time until until the microphone falls out of my hand, and even then
Uh-huh.
I'll just
Yeah.
lie on the
They
floor.
throw the dirt over my cooling body. Yep. I feel you.
Even so, I'm going to put up a sign that says, "Listen, check out the YouTube videos."
Yeah, yeah. Download this podcast wherever you download your podcasts.
That's right. Um, so once you got involved with the tech and that drew you in, what about when you started, you said you've been in front of crowds before and it's not a big problem, but now you start to use this to interact with the audience. That's a little bit of a different tack. Was it easy for you to
Definitely.
was it easy for you to switch tack that way during your streams?
It was the secret sauce. I think that I was like that was the missing ingredient that I was hoping for, was like I remember watching Space Ghost Coast to Coast,
I love that show.
back in college,
Yeah.
and thinking like this is genius. And I wish that I had tools like this to like, interview people in like this imaginary set with this set of characters who have
Right.
their own
Yep.
thing going on,
Yep.
um
It was brilliant.
and like, yeah, it was brilliant. And you look back at it, and of course, the animation is not live,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
is, fairly primitive canned animation
It's
that's kind of,
Hanna-Barbera.
edited together over sometimes an interview
Yes.
with a real guest.
Yep. It's really when you do get that interaction with the audience, now it becomes a whole different game, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It was the secret sauce that I was looking for,
Mhm.
seeing that knowing that there could be that element of interactivity
Yeah.
and having a character who has lore in
Mhm.
theory
Yeah.
that sometimes makes its way into the stream, but also this improv. I Please forgive me for being an improv person, but
No. It's
I have to
fine.
come clean that I do improv and I do enjoy it. I don't expect anybody to ever enjoy an improv show who is not actively performing improv.
Yeah,
But
I enjoy very good improv. I like, to me, that's better than a script setup because it comes at you from out of nowhere.
yeah,
It,
when it's good, it's great.
Oh,
When
yeah.
it's not, when the spark isn't flying and the material isn't going anywhere, it's agony to watch and agony to perform.
Oh, yes.
But when it's going good, it's great.
That's
And
exactly.
having a lot of things that I can pull in at any given moment of like, this bit's going nowhere, quick, put on a stupid hat, or something, that kind of like being able to dynamically change things, and like, oh, I'm just going to, switch my set,
Yes.
or cause a wandering monster to come onto the set or
That-
something like that.
that-
That's where things really came alive for me in the live performance, I think.
It's like, break it up.
Mm-hmm. Keep it fresh.
Yes.
Add a little chaos too. Like
Oh.
it gives me stuff to react to. It's not just me, doing things that I expect. The fact that I've given a lot of the reins to the audience to like change things or change the environment or do things to my environment or model means that I have things to react to, which is huge in improv.
Yeah. So when you're doing that online, do you have a line in the sand that's drawn between allowing the audience to kind of take over what's going on and what you're in control of?
Yes. They are not allowed to head pat me, for instance. This in VTuber, you will often see in VTuber's channel point rewards a head pat redeem, where a little hand will appear on the VTuber's head and it'll administer head pats. For some reason or another, I wrote into my lore that Bonnicula does not allow herself to be head patted. She is the head patter. She is the queen that gives the head pats. So if somebody if somebody redeems that reward, I will play a little animation. Their profile picture will appear on stream in front of me, and I will reach out and I will pat them on the head. So I do exert some control over like, well, these things amuse me.
Yes.
This is funny to me that I'm going to switcheroo it on you.
Yeah, that
no,
is.
you can't. No, you can't touch me.
I
No
like
touchy.
that. That's really good. It's really good. Do you ever worry that you give the audience a little too much control?
Occasionally, and that thankfully the tools exist to kind of I will sometimes introduce a reward or a redeem or something that people can spam.
Hmm.
Um, and I quickly regret not putting a cooldown or a limit on it. And usually live on stream I will. I'll be like, okay, so clearly you like that one.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're enjoying the fireworks display, but I can't. It's gonna make my eardrums explode. I'm going to put a cooldown on that.
Oh, you're loud. Oh, from the audience.
Oh,
We we
the
used,
weeping.
yes. What do you think about having an audience that's potentially the entire planet?
Oh, not a risk I'm at, Eric. Don't worry.
Yeah, but still,
Um,
I mean, there's no limit.
there is no theoretical limit. It is true.
Yeah.
And it stresses me out to think of, um, getting a raid from a very large creator who might have a community that maybe wouldn't, would have sort of more odd interactions in chat, perhaps,
Yeah.
or may not be used to interacting in spaces where the creator and the majority of the chat is usually LGBT people,
Hmm.
or maybe just kind of like a slightly older audience. I would say my audience trends a little bit more mature,
Hmm.
because they vibe with my I do Mel Brooks bits. I do, I will make references to Ernest Goes to Camp. Like there's there's going to be like material that is a little bit alien
Yeah.
to Gen Z audiences and
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Well, it is if they don't know Mel Brooks for crying out loud.
The kids don't study the classics, Eric.
uh,
Education is failing.
yes. Yes. We should force them to watch Mel Brooks instead of uh, Hot Tub Time Machine 3.
You gotta start with Plato, and move through.
Yes.
And if you're not exploring the bedrock foundation of humor, then you're not gonna get very far in your hot
Oh,
tub time machine.
if no one if someone is out there and you haven't watched Marx Brothers Duck Soup,
Mm-hmm.
and you're missing out on one of the biggest joys that this life will ever have for you. So that's all I have to say. I can watch that 24 hours a day. It's just Groucho Marx just does everything for me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
and you talk about somebody who had to be fast on their feet. I mean,
Oh my God. The
yeah,
the the lightning fast responses.
yeah,
So good.
yeah, and they hone that, of course, on the circuit, the vaudeville circuit. But it again, it's a point of getting in front of the audience and being nimble enough to read the crowd, play to the crowd, play off the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing improv, that is the main thing you have to do, isn't it?
I think that's really like, I was talking about the different ways you describe VTubing to somebody who hasn't experienced it, and I talked about like live animation or virtual puppeteering, but honestly, it has a lot more in common with vaudeville and drag,
Hmm.
or stand-up comedy and improv shows than anything else. If you are really, if you are performing
Hmm.
in that space. Now, there's also moments, of course, where I am kicked back and I'm playing some Minecraft and I'm really responding to the game more and just kind of idly hanging out with chat. We're just kind
Right,
of zoning out together
right.
late in the night. That's fine too,
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
if I am on and I'm trying to like do my little bits and like really engage with chat and get them firing,
Yeah.
it is much more like vaudeville, drag, stand up, that kind of performance.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it becomes uh it becomes one of those performances you'd see that on the Tonight Show late at
Mhm.
night. That no,
Ideally, that's what I think we should aspire to.
yeah, and it's something that we don't have a lot anymore, unfortunately. Um,
It's a dying art, sadly.
and there's
But
a
it lives in like TikTok shorts and things like that.
yeah,
People
yeah,
there's still short form snappy comedy out there, shorter than ever sometimes.
yeah. Well,
But But I
It's
like the interactivity more than anything.
yeah, what it reminds me of a lot is the old radio DJ days when you could hear a song on any station, but you came back for the personality of the person playing the song.
Their taste
Yeah,
and also their like banter.
yeah. Like you mentioned Minecraft. I mean, you could go on and watch, I don't know, 1,500 people play Minecraft at any particular time, but you come back to the person you enjoy playing Minecraft. It's still the personality that
hmm
brings them back. Um,
That's exactly right.
yeah,
Yeah, and the Lord knows there's thousands of people all playing the same game out there.
yeah.
So you gotta, if you gotta think like, well, what am I, am I bringing something to the table, and how am I playing this game, how I'm presenting myself, how I'm doing it? That's going to bring people back. I
Hmm.
hope so.
Yeah, yeah. It's really it's entertainment to its core in many different ways. And but something else I love about this is that people are doing it for very different reasons. Um, maybe they're doing it one time every 2 weeks just to blow off steam or
Hmm.
something, or maybe they're
Oh,
trying to make some money
absolutely.
at it. The range goes from having thousands of people following you to your mom
Hmm. Yeah,
following you.
I just kick up the game and I play on and I stream it, but I'm mostly hanging out with a couple friends. It's how I relax. For some folks that is definitely like that's that's the goal they are working towards, and
Yeah.
I think that's great.
So what is your goal now? I mean, you've always got your I imagine you've always got your sights set on something that you want to
I
integrate
do.
into
Yeah.
your stream. What is next?
I definitely came into it with like a purpose. I was
Hmm.
like, well, if I'm going to do this, after that first like exploratory, what is this exactly phase?
Hmm.
Then I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So I set myself a schedule and I do not deviate from it if at all possible.
Hmm.
Monday through Thursday, 11:30 p.m. on the dot, with almost no variation.
Yeah.
If I start at 11:31, my chat harangues me and call in a wellness check on me. But like I had the goal to achieve my goal. I did not meet. I did not have a realistic time frame because I didn't fully understand the mechanics of Twitch for
Yeah.
one. But I had the goal of like, okay, if I can grow at this rate and achieve, an average growth of this many, concurrent viewers per month, then by this quarter, I've got line charts. I've got Google Docs with line charts plotting my R2. Like
Yes.
it's bad.
Well, I mean, what you show me here is you're just absolutely enjoying yourself with it. You if And it seems to me that if you weren't enjoying yourself with it, you'd look for something else to enjoy while still doing it. Um, and you can hear it as you talk about it. It's very obviously um, something that has embraced you as much as you've embraced it, which is
Hmm.
a very good thing. And I got to tell you, I really want to have you back on again and talk more about this because I hope a lot of VTubers listened and found a few nuggets along the way because I think you got a lot to tell people about. Um,
Yeah, I'd love that.
Absolutely, and it's been a wonderful interview. I thank you so much for coming on. We
Oh, for sure. Anytime, Eric.
Yeah, we're gonna have all the links in the description for the video. Bonnicula, thank you so much, and allowing me to
Yeah,
get.
like and subscribe. Thank you so much for having me, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.